You know that person. The one who made your heart race and your anxiety skyrocket at the same time. The one who gave you just enough attention to keep you hooked, but never enough to feel secure. The one who left you questioning your own worth while you desperately tried to win their love. And here's the brutal truth most people won't tell you: you weren't just unlucky. There's a psychological reason why you're drawn to people who hurt you, and once you understand it, you'll never see relationships the same way again. I'm talking about Carl Jung's shadow theory, and it's about to blow your mind. The pattern you can't escape. Let me guess. You've been in this situation before. Maybe multiple times. You meet someone who seems perfect on the surface, but something feels off. They're charming, attractive, maybe even a little mysterious. They give you just enough validation to keep you interested, but they're also unpredictable, emotionally unavailable, or straight up toxic. Your friends tell you to run. Your rational mind knows they're right. But somehow, you can't stay away. You find yourself making excuses for their behavior, trying harder to win their approval, and feeling more addicted to them with every cruel word or dismissive gesture. Sound familiar? You're not weak. You're not stupid. And you're definitely not alone. What you're experiencing is your shadow at work, and it's one of the most powerful psychological forces in human relationships. What is the shadow? Carl Jung, one of the most influential psychologists in history, discovered something that changed how we understand human behavior forever. He found that every person has what he called a shadow, a hidden part of our psyche that contains all the traits, emotions, and experiences we've rejected, denied, or buried. Think of it this way: from the moment you were born, you learned what was acceptable and what wasn't. Maybe showing anger got you punished, so you learned to suppress it. Maybe being vulnerable led to rejection, so you built walls. Maybe expressing your needs was met with dismissal, so you learned to hide them. All of these rejected parts of yourself didn't just disappear. They went underground, forming your shadow. And here's where it gets interesting: your shadow doesn't stay hidden forever. It shows up in your relationships, especially in who you're attracted to and how you behave when you're in love. The magnetic pull of your shadow. Here's the mind-blowing part: we're unconsciously attracted to people who embody the qualities we've rejected in ourselves. If you've suppressed your anger, you might be drawn to someone who's explosive and unpredictable. If you've learned to hide your neediness, you might fall for someone who's incredibly demanding. If you've rejected your own darkness, you might be magnetically pulled toward someone who's emotionally unavailable or even cruel. This isn't masochism. This isn't self-destruction. This is your psyche trying to heal itself by reconnecting with the parts of you that you've disowned. Your shadow is trying to become whole again, and it's using your romantic relationships to do it. But here's the problem: instead of integrating these shadow qualities in a healthy way, you're trying to experience them through another person. You're essentially using them as a drug to feel alive, to feel complete, to touch the parts of yourself you've forbidden. Why bad relationships feel so good. This explains why toxic relationships often feel more intense, more passionate, and more real than healthy ones. When someone treats you poorly, they're activating parts of your shadow that have been dormant for years. The drama, the uncertainty, the emotional highs and lows, they're all awakening aspects of yourself that you've kept locked away. Remember being a child and feeling powerless? That person who ignores your texts is making you feel that way again, and part of you craves it because it's familiar. Remember feeling unworthy of love? That person who's hot and cold is confirming that belief, and your shadow recognizes it as home. This is why you can meet someone who's kind, stable, and genuinely interested in you, and feel nothing. They're not triggering your shadow. They're not awakening those buried parts of yourself. So your unconscious mind labels them as boring or not right for you. The childhood connection. Most of our shadow formation happens in childhood. The way your parents loved you, fought with each other, and treated you when you were vulnerable created the template for what love feels like. If love came with conditions, chaos, or emotional unavailability, that's what your nervous system learned to associate with love. Your shadow isn't just attracted to people who hurt you, it's attracted to people who hurt you in familiar ways. The person who reminds you of your emotionally distant parent. The one who makes you fight for attention like you had to as a child. The one who makes love feel like something you have to earn rather than something you deserve. This is why you might find yourself saying things like, "I don't understand why I keep attracting the same type of person." You're not attracting them, you're unconsciously selecting them because they feel like home to your wounded parts. The projection game. Jung also identified something called projection, the tendency to see in others what we can't see in ourselves. When you're in the grip of your shadow, you're not really seeing the other person clearly. You're seeing your own disowned qualities reflected back at you. That mysterious person who won't commit? They might actually be reflecting your own fear of intimacy that you've never acknowledged. That confident person who puts you down? They might be showing you the self-criticism you've been directing at yourself for years. This is why toxic relationships often feel so compelling. You're literally falling in love with hidden parts of yourself. But because you're experiencing these qualities through another person instead of owning them yourself, the relationship becomes a battlefield where you're trying to control, fix, or earn love from someone who's essentially a mirror of your own psyche. The addiction cycle. Understanding the shadow also explains why these relationships become so addictive. Every time that person gives you a crumb of attention or affection, they're feeding a part of you that's been starving for recognition. Every time they withdraw, they're activating your deepest fears of abandonment and unworthiness. This creates what psychologists call an intermittent reinforcement schedule, the most addictive pattern known to human psychology. But it's not just about the external behavior. It's about your internal relationship with your own shadow. You're literally trying to get love and acceptance from the parts of yourself that you've rejected. Think about it. If you've always been the good girl or nice guy, suppressing your anger and rebellion, you might be incredibly drawn to someone who's unpredictable and edgy. But instead of recognizing that you're attracted to these qualities because you want to experience them yourself, you become addicted to this person's approval. You're essentially asking them to love the parts of you that you can't love yourself. The real reason you can't let go. This is why logical advice like, "just leave," or "you deserve better," doesn't work when you're caught in a shadow relationship. You're not just trying to win over another person, you're trying to win over the rejected parts of yourself. Leaving them feels like abandoning yourself all over again. Your shadow is essentially saying, "This person has something I need. They have the anger I'm not allowed to feel, the freedom I'm not allowed to express, the power I'm not allowed to claim. If I can just get them to love me, maybe I can finally love these parts of myself." But here's the cruel irony. You can never get someone else to love the parts of yourself that you've rejected. No amount of external validation can heal your internal split. This is why these relationships often end in devastation. Not just because you lost the person, but because you lost access to parts of yourself that felt essential to your wholeness. How to break the cycle. So how do you break free from this pattern? The answer isn't to avoid all challenging people or to settle for relationships that feel safe but boring. The answer is shadow integration, learning to own and love the parts of yourself that you've disowned. This means getting curious about what attracts you to certain people instead of judging yourself for it. If you're drawn to someone who's emotionally unavailable, ask yourself, what part of me is emotionally unavailable? Where do I withhold love from myself or others? If you're attracted to someone who's angry or rebellious, ask, where have I suppressed my own anger? What would it look like to honor my own need for rebellion and authentic expression? If you find yourself chasing someone who seems powerful or confident, explore, where do I give my power away? How can I cultivate my own sense of inner authority? The integration process. Shadow integration isn't about becoming the toxic behaviors you're attracted to. It's about finding healthy ways to express the disowned aspects of yourself. If you've suppressed your anger, learn to set boundaries and advocate for yourself. If you've hidden your vulnerability, practice sharing your authentic feelings with safe people. If you've rejected your own needs, start honoring them instead of waiting for someone else to meet them. This process is challenging because it means facing parts of yourself that you've spent years avoiding. It means grieving the childhood wounds that created these splits in the first place. It means learning to love yourself as a whole person, not just the acceptable parts. But here's what happens when you start doing this work. You become less attracted to people who embody your disowned qualities in toxic ways, and more attracted to people who express them in healthy ways. You stop needing drama to feel alive because you're no longer cutting yourself off from your own aliveness. What healthy attraction looks like. When you've integrated more of your shadow, your attraction patterns shift dramatically. You might still be drawn to confident people, but now you're attracted to those who are confident and kind, rather than confident and cruel. You might still like a little mystery, but you're drawn to people who are intriguingly complex rather than manipulatively withholding. Most importantly, you stop needing other people to complete you because you're becoming complete within yourself. You can appreciate someone's qualities without becoming addicted to them. You can handle rejection without it destroying your sense of self-worth. You can love someone without losing yourself in the process. The ultimate realization. Here's the ultimate truth that Jung discovered. Every person you've ever fallen for, especially the ones who hurt you, has been a teacher showing you parts of yourself that needed healing. They weren't just random people who happened to cross your path. They were mirrors reflecting your own psyche back to you. The person who made you feel powerless was showing you where you'd given your power away. The one who made you feel unworthy was reflecting your own self-rejection. The one who couldn't commit was mirroring your own fear of vulnerability. This doesn't excuse their behavior or make the pain they caused acceptable. But it does give you the power to transform your suffering into wisdom, your patterns into consciousness, and your wounds into wholeness. Your new beginning. Understanding your shadow doesn't mean you're doomed to repeat these patterns forever. It means you finally have the key to changing them. Every time you feel that familiar magnetic pull towards someone who seems wrong for you, you can pause and ask, what is this person reflecting back to me about myself? What part of my shadow is trying to get my attention? Instead of chasing them for validation, you can give that validation to yourself. Instead of trying to earn their love, you can learn to love the parts of yourself that they represent. Instead of using them as a drug to feel whole, you can do the work of actually becoming whole. This is the path to real love, not just finding someone who accepts you, but becoming someone who accepts yourself completely. When you integrate your shadow, you don't just attract healthier partners, you become a healthier partner. You don't just avoid toxic relationships, you create nourishing ones. The person who hurt you wasn't your enemy, they were your teacher. And now that you understand the lesson, you're free to graduate to a love that heals instead of wounds, that integrates instead of fragments, that makes you more yourself instead of less. Your shadow isn't something to fear or fight. It's something to understand, integrate, and ultimately thank for showing you the way back to wholeness. And when you do that work, you don't just change your love life, you change your entire relationship with yourself and the world. The science behind the shadow. Recent neuroscience research has actually validated many of Jung's theories about the shadow. Brain imaging studies show that when we suppress emotions or aspects of ourselves, they don't disappear. They get stored in different parts of our brain and continue to influence our behavior unconsciously. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's groundbreaking work on trauma shows that our bodies literally keep the score of our early experiences. When you feel that inexplicable pull towards someone who treats you poorly, your nervous system is recognizing patterns from your past and responding as if they're necessary for survival. This is why you might feel physically ill when a healthy person shows genuine interest in you, but feel electrically alive when someone toxic gives you attention. Your body has been conditioned to associate love with stress hormones and safety with boredom. The different types of shadow attractions. Not all shadow attractions look the same. Let me break down the most common patterns so you can recognize which one might be running your love life. The unavailable shadow. You're drawn to people who are emotionally, physically, or romantically unavailable. This often reflects a part of you that's afraid of true intimacy. You want love, but you also fear it, so you choose people who can't give it to you fully. This way, you get to experience the longing without the vulnerability of actually being seen and loved completely. The critical shadow. You're attracted to people who put you down, criticize you, or make you feel like you're never good enough. This reflects your own inner critic, the voice that's been telling you you're not worthy of love. By choosing someone who confirms this belief, you're staying in your comfort zone of self-rejection. The chaos shadow. You're drawn to drama, unpredictability, and emotional roller coasters. This often means you've suppressed your own emotional intensity and need for excitement. You've learned to be the calm one, the stable one, so you seek partners who can express the wildness you've denied in yourself. The power shadow. You're attracted to people who seem powerful, dominant, or controlling. This usually reflects your own disowned power and authority. You've learned to be passive or submissive, so you're drawn to people who embody the strength and decisiveness you've rejected in yourself. The freedom shadow. You chase people who seem independent, rebellious, or unwilling to be tied down. This reflects your own suppressed desire for freedom and authenticity. You've learned to be the good person who follows rules and meets expectations, so you're attracted to those who seem to live without these constraints. The childhood wounds that create these patterns. Understanding your specific shadow pattern often requires looking at your earliest relationships. Here's how different childhood experiences create different shadow attractions. If you had a parent who was emotionally unavailable, you learned that love comes with distance and withholding. Your nervous system got wired to expect love to be scarce and conditional. As an adult, when someone is readily available and affectionate, it feels wrong because it doesn't match your template for love. If you were criticized or made to feel like you were never good enough, you internalized a voice that constantly judges and diminishes you. When someone treats you with consistent kindness and respect, your inner critic says they don't really know you, or they'll leave once they see who you really are. So you choose people who confirm your negative self-beliefs because it feels more honest. If your family was chaotic or unpredictable, you learned to be hypervigilant and ready for crisis. Peaceful, stable relationships actually trigger anxiety because your nervous system is waiting for the other shoe to drop. Drama and conflict feel more familiar and real than genuine peace. If you were made to feel powerless or had your autonomy regularly violated, you might be drawn to people who seem to have the power and control you couldn't access as a child. But instead of developing your own sense of personal power, you try to access it through someone else. The trauma bond explained. What many people don't understand is that toxic relationships often create what psychologists call trauma bonds. These are incredibly powerful attachments that form when you experience intermittent reinforcement, periods of stress and relief, punishment and reward, rejection and acceptance. Your brain releases powerful chemicals during these cycles. The stress creates cortisol and adrenaline, which make you hyperalert and focused on the source of the stress. When relief comes, when that person finally texts you back, shows you affection, or gives you attention, your brain floods with dopamine and oxytocin, creating an intense high. This cycle literally rewires your brain to crave this person, even when you logically know they're bad for you. It's not weakness, it's neurobiology. Your brain has learned to associate this person with survival and reward, making it incredibly difficult to break away. But here's what's really happening. You're not just bonded to this person. You're bonded to the feelings they create in you, feelings that connect you to disowned parts of yourself. Breaking the trauma bond isn't just about leaving the person, it's about learning to create those feelings of aliveness and intensity in healthy ways. The cultural shadow in relationships. Our individual shadow patterns are also shaped by collective cultural messages about love and relationships. Movies, books, and social media constantly portray toxic dynamics as passionate and romantic. The idea that love should be easy and peaceful is often dismissed as boring or unrealistic. We're taught that you have to fight for love, that jealousy means passion, that drama equals depth. These cultural messages reinforce our individual shadow patterns and make it even harder to recognize healthy love when we see it. The truth is, our culture has a collective shadow around relationships. We glorify intensity over intimacy, passion over peace, conquest over connection. This makes it incredibly difficult to value the kind of steady, secure love that actually nourishes us. Breaking free, the practical steps. Now that you understand the psychology behind your attraction patterns, let's talk about how to actually change them. This isn't about willpower or just choosing better. It's about systematically rewiring your nervous system and integrating your shadow. Step 1. Map your shadow. Start by honestly examining your relationship history. What patterns do you see? What type of person do you consistently attract or feel attracted to? What qualities do they have that you find irresistible, even when you know they're not good for you? Write down these qualities without judgment. Remember, your shadow isn't evil, it's just disowned. The person who seems so confident might be reflecting your own need to step into your power. The one who's so free might be showing you your own suppressed desire for authentic self-expression. Step 2. Identify your disowned qualities. For each attractive quality you've identified, ask yourself, how might I be rejecting this quality in myself? If you're drawn to confident people, where do you lack confidence? If you're attracted to emotional people, where do you suppress your emotions? If you like rebellious types, where do you overconform? This isn't about becoming toxic or destructive. It's about finding healthy ways to express these disowned aspects. Maybe you need to develop healthy confidence, authentic emotional expression, or constructive rebellion against limiting beliefs. Step 3. Reparent your wounded parts. Many shadow patterns stem from childhood wounds that never fully healed. The part of you that's attracted to unavailable people might be your inner child who never felt truly seen or valued. The part that craves criticism might be trying to resolve feelings of inadequacy from your past. Start dialoguing with these wounded parts. Ask them what they need. Usually, they need the kind of love and acceptance they didn't receive as children. You can't go back and change your past, but you can give your inner child what they needed then. Step 4. Practice nervous system regulation. Since many of these patterns are stored in your nervous system, you need to retrain your body's responses. This means learning to feel safe in peace and stability, rather than only feeling alive in chaos and drama. Practices like meditation, breathwork, yoga, and somatic therapy can help you develop a new relationship with your nervous system. You're essentially teaching your body that calm doesn't mean danger, and that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. Step 5. Cultivate self-compassion. One of the biggest obstacles to shadow integration is self-judgment. When you realize you've been attracted to people who hurt you, there's often a wave of shame and self-criticism. But this just creates more shadow material to work with. Practice speaking to yourself the way you would speak to a beloved friend who was struggling. Your patterns made sense given your history. You were doing the best you could with the resources you had. Now you're learning to do better, and that's something to celebrate, not shame. The healing relationship. As you do this work, you'll start to notice changes in who you're attracted to and how you behave in relationships. You might find yourself drawn to people who are kind consistently, not just sometimes. You might notice that drama feels exhausting rather than exciting. You might discover that you can feel passionate about someone who also feels safe. This doesn't mean you'll be attracted to boring people or settle for relationships without depth. It means you'll be attracted to people who can match your depth without creating chaos, who can be intense without being destructive, who can be passionate without being toxic. The goal isn't to eliminate all challenge or growth from your relationships. Healthy relationships should still push you to grow and evolve. But the difference is that a healthy, challenging relationship invites you to become more of who you truly are, while a toxic one asks you to abandon yourself to earn love. When you meet someone healthy, one of the most confusing parts of this journey is when you start meeting genuinely healthy people and feel nothing. Or worse, you feel anxious, bored, or turned off. This is completely normal and doesn't mean you're broken or that they're wrong for you. Your nervous system is simply responding to the unfamiliar. After years of associating love with stress hormones, genuine safety and availability can feel strange. The absence of drama doesn't mean absence of depth, it just means your system needs time to adjust. Give yourself permission to feel uncomfortable with healthy love at first. Notice the stories your mind tells you. They're too nice, there's no spark, it's too easy. These are often your shadow's resistance to healing. Stay curious about these reactions rather than immediately acting on them. The integration journey. Shadow integration isn't a one-time event, it's a lifelong journey. As you grow and evolve, new aspects of your shadow will emerge to be integrated. This is actually a good thing. It means you're becoming more whole, more authentic, more fully yourself. You might find that you go through periods where old patterns resurface, especially during times of stress or transition. This doesn't mean you're going backward. It means you have more layers to heal and integrate. Be patient with yourself and trust the process. The ripple effect. As you heal your own relationship patterns, you'll notice changes in all areas of your life. When you stop abandoning yourself for others' approval, you naturally start setting better boundaries. When you integrate your disowned power, you begin speaking up for yourself in all relationships. When you heal your fear of intimacy, you become more vulnerable and authentic with friends, family, and colleagues. This work doesn't just change your romantic life, it changes your entire relationship with yourself and the world. You become someone who attracts healthy love because you're finally able to give and receive it. Your new love story. The most beautiful part of this journey is that you're not just healing your past, you're creating a new future. Every time you choose to love a disowned part of yourself instead of seeking that love from someone else, you're rewriting your story. Every time you practice being with someone who treats you well instead of running toward chaos, you're creating new neural pathways. You're not just breaking generational patterns, you're creating new ones. The love you learn to give yourself will be the template for the love you attract and create with others. The wholeness you develop within yourself will be the foundation for genuine partnership with another whole person. This is the ultimate purpose of understanding your shadow in relationships. It's not just about avoiding toxic people or finding someone better. It's about becoming the person who naturally attracts and creates the kind of love that heals rather than wounds, that integrates rather than fragments, that celebrates your wholeness rather than exploiting your wounds. The person who hurt you taught you about your shadow. Now you can thank them for the lesson and graduate to a love that honors every part of who you are. The pattern ends with you. The healing begins with you. And the love story you're about to create will be worth every moment of this journey toward wholeness. Your shadow isn't your enemy, it's your teacher, your guide back to yourself, and ultimately, your path to the most authentic love you've ever known. And that love story. It starts the moment you decide you're worthy of it all.